Hey, everybody. I wanted to come on and do a little soul speak about basically what inspired this was Mercury retrograde in Scorpio and the work that seems to be being done by the individual and the collective. And so I wanted to put together a little stream of consciousness based on what I've been picking up over the course of the last week or so. And then also just make some space for spirit to speak and to do a little healing around this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to set up, I've got my Healy working here. And so I've set it up inside of my resonance analysis that I'm going to do a collective healing based on what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started first so the healing can go ahead and begin. And I'm just setting the intention of what does the collective need for healing in this time for the greatest good of all things. And the analysis is through all of the different Healy programs that are available, which is a combination of about 144,000 different healing frequencies that basically, once you set your intention of whatever balance you're trying to bring yourself into, the resonance analysis will identify based on your quantum field what frequencies need help in order to bring you into balance. And then it gives you a high level summary of all of the different program groups that it's accessing for you. And so it does look like we are the first and highest need is actually inside the chakra programs, which is interesting. So we could actually go a little deeper and take a look at what chakras are being affected inside of the collective right now. But we're going to go ahead and start with this mix of chakra, gold cycle, bioenergetic balance, bioenergetic support, and skin programs. And inside of those groups, there's multiple frequencies that you're accessing. So I know it sounds funny. It's like, okay, the collective skin programs, but what we're also looking at inside of those beauty and skin programs is internal beauty, internal glow, internal healing that then is reflected outward through our appearance. So you can see someone who, I think just right offhand is like knowing someone who's just done a detox, right? Who's just done a cleanse, and you see them and their eyes are sparkling and their skin is glowing. And, this is beauty that's coming from the inside out. And so that's also something that is done inside the Healy skin and beauty programs. It's not just about anti-aging or skin healing. And another interesting concept would be to look at scar tissue. Okay, so that's also a frequency that is inside of skin healing, is healing old scar tissues. And isn't that kind of what we're doing right now? We're healing old scars inside of ourselves and inside the collective in general, historical wounds that have left some pretty nasty scar tissue. And so it is appropriate, if you're looking at it from a frequency perspective, that is outside just the physical realm. So we're going to go ahead and vibrate this healing for, I'm being drawn to the 12 minutes, 40 seconds. So let's go ahead and run this healing, this frequency healing for the collective, myself being your channel for healing through my quantum field as I connect into the collective energy. So let's talk a little bit about the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. Officially, it's about September 23rd to about November 3rd, but we do have a shadow period before that, and then we have a shadow period after that. And actually, it may have been the shadow period that began on September 23rd. But like I said, I do not claim to be an astrologer. I know a little bit about astrology, and from what I know about astrology, spirit can come through my channel with some consciousness around that. So it's really, I'm just going to share what's been coming through for me, based on what I know about the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio that we're in right now. And without getting too deep into the planets that are playing into that, or how that affects you and your personal sign, that's where you would need to do a little bit of research on your own, or make an appointment with your astrologer to get an idea of how this is affecting your chart. But I think generally what we want to talk about is this rebirthing period that we're in right now. And, we use the word rebirth, but I almost want to say that this time period right now has an energy of just birth, of emerging as an entirely new version of yourself. So yes, it is a rebirthing process, but I feel like for a lot of us, there's a brand new self that we've never really seen before trying to emerge. And, we think about the process of being birthed, the concept of the birth canal and having to be squeezed through this space, going through the darkness and then having the light breach on the other side, as we are moving into the world for the first time. And so I do feel like there's a lot of this happening. And we're also looking at, the shadow work that's inside of this. There's Scorpio is the house of the other, the house of the shadow, the house of the occult. The born Scorpios that get into service work are pretty much made for, any sort of deep counseling, psychotherapy, social work, things where you are really helping someone heal from a dark place in their life, or helping someone face their shadow side, or even just researching and analyzing the psyche of those who are in a dark place, like those who have been incarcerated, like doing interviews for, psychopaths and sociopaths and things like that, and holding space to really understand the human psyche inside of that darkness. So, there's a lot more to Scorpio, but this is what's emerging for me inside of this particular stream of consciousness around what we're going through right now. And this has been reinforced to me through my own personal work, but also inside my client sessions of what I'm seeing, people reaching out with these feelings of the intensity and the challenges that are coming up around and within this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, when we are being asked to go inside of ourselves, inside of this Scorpio energy. And generally speaking, Mercury retrograde is a time for review, right? For the internal work to go within. It's not suggested that you really start any new big outward projects during Mercury retrograde, just because of the energy around it, that requires you to review and redo things, right? So it's much better to revisit old projects, things that do need reevaluation or reviewing, a little blueprint work, things to clean up for once Mercury retrograde is over, for a launch or a relaunch. These are things that are encouraged during Mercury retrograde. It's almost like you get the word that has the RE prefix on it. So reevaluating, reviewing, rebooting, which we have to do with our computers a lot during Mercury retrograde, right? Because our technology is often affected. Our communication methods are often affected. So this is why it's always good to go within and take a real good look at how you are showing up in your life, and trying to figure out new ways to take responsibility for the structures that are showing up inside of these times. And so right now we're really being pushed to look at our deepest parts, and ultimately, when I talked about this in my 4D video, but, ultimately the goal is to come into balance. And we are in a state of dramatic polarity right now, where we really are seeing the extreme sides of things. And this includes extreme sides of ourselves, extreme situations inside of our lives, that create real discomfort and beg us to look at what's really happening and what adjustments might need to be made in order to bring ourselves into balance. And so, the true authenticity comes from having the courage to go into your dark places, to look at your shadow. Because when we can go there and hold space for those parts of ourselves that we deny or don't like so much or have been suppressed for whatever reason throughout our lives, we can find space for those things, and we can find compassion and forgiveness and love for all of those things inside of our lives. And by doing that, we can merge that shadow side of ourselves up into the light-based parts of ourselves. And so it is like these, when you look at it from a chakra perspective, it's these upper chakras merging with the lower chakras and coming into this space in the center of the body. It's a combination of our heart and our solar plexus, and being able to redesign and birth a new identity that sits in resonance with the heart vibration, which is where our true self lies, our soul vibration. And so a lot of anxiety inside of the body is a byproduct of false identity vibrations trying to merge into the heart, and the heart saying, no, 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 this isn't who we really are. These are limiting structures. These are old truths, old beliefs that we don't really resonate with anymore. And to try to continue to live inside of those structures causes great stress and great anxiety, on all levels, physical, emotional, and mental. And so as we start to dig deeper down into our shadow, we have to go into these lower chakras, these lower realms, into root and sacral, to go back and review what potentially, a lot of the inner child work is part of our shadow, part of the darkness that we're trying to purge. Because of the fact that so much of our trauma and our wounds do come from those years, when, others were more in control of us than we were of ourselves. And we weren't taught how to be whole beings and accepting our emotions and our desires and all of those things. A lot of those things get suppressed. And our identity is born out of us trying to observe our environment and our surroundings in relationship to ourselves and how we feel and how we respond. It's all about getting what we want, getting what we need. And so a lot of our identity is based inside of manipulation. So is it we were being manipulated by others? Are we learning to be the manipulative one in order to get what we want? That's just one example, but the bottom line is that we are being asked to go almost backwards in time to figure out where the old belief structures lie that are not working for us anymore. And this is also going to be mirrored in our outside world. And so like I said, we are seeing these structures fall in kind of extreme ways. And when it's on an emotional or a mental level or even a physical level, we start to see medical issues arise, with either, a heightened volatility in our body that now requires some sort of treatment, on a medical level, or holistic level. We start to see really heightened extreme emotional vibrations emerge of anxiety and agitation and fear, panic, those kinds of things. And we don't know what to do about those things other than the tools that we've been taught through our lives. And most of us have been taught to go outside of ourselves to find something to calm that vibration, right? So, inside of these same places in the body that we're purging also live vibrations of addiction. So we're looking outside of ourselves for something to numb, to squelch these desires or squelch these needs, that ultimately it's rising up for you to look at it so you can find a solution that's within. So you're not spending the rest of your life placing expectations and attachments to things outside of yourself that are going to disappoint you over and over again, because it's not a permanent solution. And so, inside of this time, it's like, I feel like we are truly going into the ring with our own demons right now. And depending on your circumstance and how much work you've done up to this point is going to also decide how deep you have to go now, and how much of a collision course you're really on, and how many things are all happening at the same time. Because I do feel too that our timeline is being condensed more and more by the second. So things, the manifestation of things is accelerating more and more by the second, which means that we are also being faced with our issues, our karma, our generational curses, our identity issues, our structures, our belief systems, like everything that is no longer working for us or where we are being driven to go, not only inside of our own lives, but for the betterment of the collective, are all coming to a head. And so the sense of urgency around having to do something to make things better is reaching a crescendo right now. And so I'm seeing that expressed in a lot of what my clients are going through right now. And, the same advice I'm giving over and over again is to just don't run from it. Don't run from it anymore. The resistance of it is making it worse. It doesn't want us to resist it anymore. It wants us to dive in and look at it in the eyes. And that when we do this, we can start to really see where our triggers are, where our healing still needs to happen, and where our responsibility for that truly comes in. A well-balanced Scorpio is very comfortable with their shadow, very comfortable with it. And they understand that it is part of who they are, and that they're not trying to compartmentalize it anymore. They're using it to merge with their better self in order to be able to create a life that has authentic purpose, that has authentic joy, that is full of proactive responsibility, not victim energy. So this is what a balanced Scorpio really looks like. And it is a very rewarding place to be when we can merge both sides of our spectrum into the center and find balance inside of both things. And we can understand ourselves on that level. It raises our frequency, it raises our emotional intelligence to a level where we can deal and respond inside of situations without a whole lot of trigger reactivity. And this keeps peace inside of our body. It keeps us inside of a sense of peace. And we can really clearly ask ourselves the right questions about what part we are playing inside of the disharmonious aspects of our life. And so, what a lot of you may be experiencing right now in Mercury retrograde in Scorpio is this vicious emergence of victim energy, which instantly makes us want to go into that place of blaming others, martyring ourselves, manipulating others, avoidance, escapism, addiction, all of these things that make us go the other direction of personal healing. And as long as we are staying inside the vibration that says, in general, something else or someone else is responsible for how I feel. Therefore, they are also responsible for fixing this for me and creating happiness for me, is not a sustainable model for happiness, because ultimately that expectation of your happiness on another person is something that can never be fulfilled, because we are all responsible for our own wholeness and our own joy and our own healing and our own happiness. And so learning how you are playing a part in the constructs that are not working for you anymore leads you to the answers of how to start to create a happier life. No one person has the answer how for you to fix it. The only voice that's going to give you that clarity is your own. And that takes time. It really takes time. Doing that work can take years, but it is something that right now, on an energetic level, is being very supported and in an accelerated way. So of all of the times on our timeline to decide to dig in and do this work, now is the time. And so this rising sense of limitations, this rising sense of feeling trapped inside of your situation, these are all arrows that are pointing to you that old things need to go away, old structures need to fall apart. And we're seeing this all around us on the macro level as well, as old things aren't working anymore, old structures are falling apart. And so you're being asked to look at those structures that aren't working inside of your own life. Where are your dependencies? Where are your attachments outside of yourself that you're assigning disappointment to, and you're assigning problems with trust and betrayal and abandonment, all of those things that you're assigning to people outside of yourselves? These are things that live inside of you, and you have to figure out their origins. And then it's deciding, have you attached yourself to a person that just is constantly reviving this trigger, these self-sabotage things? Are you magnetizing in relationships? Are you magnetizing in situations that just become a self-fulfilling prophecy, that support these old limiting beliefs that say, well, see, nothing works out for me, and see, this is proof of it, because I'm in another relationship that's not working for me? These are the things that have to be identified. Why are you continuously attracting in that vibration? Because it lives inside of you, and it needs to be found, and it needs to be balanced out. And so this is what I'm talking about, as far as you being the responsible party for why are you magnetizing these unhealthy things continuously into your life, and how are you thriving inside of that victim energy? What is it doing for you? How is it serving you? Do you use that victim energy to get what you need? Do you use it to manipulate others into feeling bad for you and supporting you? Are you using that victim energy to stay sick? All of these different things are ways. It's like the opposite side of the spectrum of safety, security, and being loved and taken care of, but in ways that are not sustainable and ultimately are a low vibrational match to that. And so trying to figure out how to be a whole person without attachments to these outside things. This is the journey of life. So, like I said, there is no magic pill that you could take tomorrow that's going to eradicate all of these things. Life is a journey. There is no finish line to understanding yourself on the deepest level possible, finding balance and harmony inside of that to create sustainable and lasting joy and happiness and contentment and peace inside of your life. And that is something that nobody can take from you, because it's developed inside. And yes, you will come into challenges. Yes, there will still be triggers, but how you handle that will be on a whole new level, because this new self that's emerging is a balanced self, a self that understands its core needs, its core desires, and there is this ever developing sense of love and deservedness and worthiness in self to be able to have those things because you are a child of God without any other reasons of having to validate your existence here. And so this is the long journey. But starting to identify these things now and being able to make choices inside of these new discoveries is how we start to create cognitive behavioral shifts inside of our brain, inside of our body, through new actions and new behaviors that are in direct relationship to these new things that we are trying to achieve for ourselves. And so, especially for those of you who have been involved in self work and have been doing these kinds of things for many years, I think one of the things that we have struggled with, I mean, especially from the perspective of empathic people, because there's always new challenges popping up as to how to handle the oppressive vibrations of the collective emotional, mental, situation. And talking the talk has been a very easy thing to do forever. It's like you can know these things, but until you put them into play and you're walking the walk, then you're not really creating any real change inside of your life. You're just telling the same story over and over again. You have to create action inside of these new beliefs for them to become reality for you. And so this is where, if you're seeing a therapist, if you're going for energy work, you're doing, using your spiritual tools, all of those things are wonderful, but it's all the moments in between those sessions, all the moments in between your meditative time. How are you walking the walk? How are you bringing action into the creation of this new version of self that's trying to emerge right now? And it's fighting for itself. Right now, we are in this internal battle, but it doesn't have to be looked at from the dark place. It can be looked at from the perspective that we're finding our strength, we're finding our resilience right now. We're seeing how deep we can go inside of this fight to be a better version of ourselves. And inside of that shadow and inside of that darkness are all of the gifts that you need to know about yourself in order to find this new version of you that wants to emerge. So that was basically the message that I've been getting over the last couple of weeks around this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. It really has been all about the shadow work and no longer running from it, no longer, turning away from it or trying to compartmentalize it. It is merging with it. So we can be a whole version of ourselves in complete authenticity and loving and forgiving and having compassion for all aspects of self. This is what unity is really about. And this is where we are headed as far as a 5D vibration. So I do have a couple of decks of cards here that I pulled out that I was guided to, that I'm going to pull a card from each deck just to get some additional messages from Spirit. Since we're dealing with some planetary energy, I'm doing my nebula cards. It's the First Light Tarot from Dinah Roseberry, and they're really beautiful imagery of stars and nebula. It looks like my card just popped out. Okay. So we have the 8 card of emotion and control of self. And what's really interesting is, first of all, the colors that are inside this card. We've got orange, yellow, and red, black, gray, brown. This is all of what we were talking about, right? These are all the lower level chakras of where we're being asked to go. And that it is a dynamic darkness. It's not completely pitch black. We're not looking at a complete void at this point, that there is dynamics of color inside of this that we are mixing with: our root chakra of red, our sacral chakra of orange, our solar plexus of yellow, and then down into the foundation of our bodies, which is where we find the black, the browns, those earthy neutral colors that ground us. And then the gray, which is the neutral, right? Which I'm actually wearing today. Being able to find that neutrality. And this can be in a very uncomfortable place for some of us to be, because it almost feels like limbo, right? And I think that this is an excellent place to be, to learn how to be okay with not being okay, how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. This is a really, really vital place for growth to occur for all of us. And so the emotion card, yes, this is a very emotional time. We are extremely emotionally volatile with all of the planets that are happening right now. And we're learning about ourselves on a level that we truly are emotional beings. And that's not something that we're taught. We're really taught to live in our head. And we're taught to be logical, rational, pragmatic beings. And there's no place for emotion in that, right? It's not personal, it's business. You know, we've all heard that 1,000 times. But learning that we can be emotional beings, we can be vulnerable, we can be open, we can live from our heart and still have a tremendous amount of value inside of the mentally structured world. In fact, more so, because you're balanced between head and heart. So you can be intellectual, but you can also be emotionally intelligent. And this is also more 5D. The 5D is less about ego and more about heart-centered living. Okay, so this is where the balance of the mental and the emotional happen. This is the balance of the divine masculine, the divine feminine. So the 8 is, if you turn it on its side, is the infinity, right? So this is our source energy. This is the law of reciprocity. What we put out, we get back. There's manifestation energy inside of the 8, karma energy inside of the 8. The 8 is a number that has to do very much with our material world here, our soul's journey on the earth and inside of the 3rd dimension, where we experience things through our senses, and what our response is to that, and how we are in service to the world, and then how that comes back to us and how balanced that is. And then that defines our law of abundance, right? And how we feel about abundance versus our relationship with lack. And these are examples of how we have to understand our own polarity. It's the same vibration. It's just 2 sides to the same coin: abundance and lack. What is your relationship with abundance inside of finances, inside of happiness? And, you know, abundance can be all things. So that's kind of my feeling around the 8 emotion card. We can take a look and see what the key words are around this particular card in her deck. Control of self, number association of 8, seeking answers, material into reality, control or responsibility in a field of interest, a focus on your future. Though emotion is not always understood from moment to moment, it has the capacity to heal or to hurt. Therefore, understanding how your emotions affect your world and the stars will deaden conflict and promote connection. Stay positive. It raises your vibration and keeps your body healthy. Controlling emotions in a happy way keeps negativity from being drawn to you. Like attracts like, the cliche that opposites attract does not bode well when discussing emotional conflict. The key is to identify the emotion, understand why you are feeling it, and then do everything you can to maintain a happy outlook. Always look for the silver lining, whether you believe it or not, it is there. And so this is the difference between really trying to find balance inside of understanding ourselves, and how we are playing a part and the responsibility for that, which also gives us the control and the empowerment to make choices to make things better. If we're putting the responsibility outside of ourselves, then we're giving all of our power away to those other people. And then we feel powerless, we feel trapped, we feel unable to make a decision, because we truly believe somewhere inside of ourselves that we don't have that capability. And so taking your power back is synonymous with taking responsibility for what part you're playing inside of your emotions, how they're controlling you instead of you controlling them. And then how are you using them? Are you using them to heal? Are you using them as a compass, a navigational tool? Or are you using them as a manipulation tool to hurt others or to manipulate others into getting what you need? And so this is a wonderful card, so supportive of what we've been talking about. So thank you to the first light tarot. And then the other deck that I have here that I selected is actually a Doreen Virtue deck. It's the Archangel Raphael Healing, to see if we can get a little further guidance as to what action we should all be taking to help get ourselves into this place of balance and rebirth in these challenging times. Okay, so one card that popped out just now is Sunlight. And I'm going to see if we can't get another one. It's a supportive card. Okay. Okay, so we're being asked to be physical right now. Both of the cards that came out are physical in nature, to physical health, exercise, and sunlight. We are moving into, on the East Coast, we're moving into the darker days right now, where our days are shorter, less light during the day. The sun isn't quite as strong. And so for those who are affected by this on an emotional level, it's a seasonal affective depression, where the D levels tend to drop inside of our bodies because of less exposure to sunlight. So we're being asked to get outside as much as possible, be inside the sunlight, make sure you're supporting your body with vitamin D supplements to keep your D levels up. This is really important going into the winter months anyway for immunity, making sure we're keeping our immune levels high to be able to ward off virus and bacteria and, germs, all of that stuff. So vitamin D therapy is extremely effective in lots of immune situations. And it just is saying, dear Archangel Raphael, please help me enjoy the benefits of sunshine in safe and healthy ways. The sun also is connected to our solar plexus. So once again, we're looking at our power center. So in addition to Archangel Raphael, you can also call in Uriel to bring in that yellow, to bring in the sun, that golden yellow ray from Archangel Uriel. But this particular angel is standing in front of citrus trees. So also important to think about color from the perspective of the foods that we're bringing in, and citrus, being a really good one that does support the solar plexus with high levels of vitamin C, which is supportive to vitamin D and keeping the immune systems high and keeping the mood light. Okay, so the other thing is exercise. Dear Archangel Raphael, thank you for motivating me and guiding me to an exercise program that fits my schedule, interests, and budget. So this is saying, set goals for yourself, actionable goals that you can that are attainable and that you can have success inside of. Do what your body will allow you to do what your schedule will allow you to do, something that's sustainable, that you can continue doing each and every day or a few days a week, whatever your schedule allows. But moving your body, really moving the body is so good for, your overall health. But you think about so much of what we're moving when we're exercising, a lot of it is lower body. We're moving our legs, we're connecting with the earth, we're moving our hips, which is sacral root. We're turning, we're stretching, which is wringing out the solar plexus. And then just overall, it helps bring us into alignment with mental clarity. It allows us to have more emotional balance, to be able to go and work this extra energy out. And so, but this is all in balance as well. It's like anything in an extreme then becomes an unhealthy habit. So really being able to find that balance inside of your self-care that allows rest and relaxation and rejuvenation, as well as being able to work energy out of the body that is potentially causing agitation or imbalance. So these are very great, just general applications of what you can do for yourself. So thank you to Archangel Raphael for bringing those messages forward through that deck. So our healing program from the Healy is complete. And then for those of you who want to learn more about the Healy, feel free to reach out to me. And, we can definitely talk about it. But there are other resources. There's some Facebook groups online that you can become a part of to learn more about the Healy, which is a frequency healing device that taps into the quantum field, your biofield, which is all frequency. It's all energy, every thought, every emotion, every organ, everything that we come in contact with that is integrated into our health, well-being, and balance. It's just frequency. And so the Healy is a wonderful opportunity to have something in your home to work with frequency healing that is very easy to use, very easy to learn. You don't have to be a tech guru to understand it. It's very intuitive. And there's also lots of people that you can reach out to for help. So if you'd like to learn more about that, you can certainly reach out to me. If you enjoyed this video, please share with family and friends. Come subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also find me on Facebook at Jenny Israel CPC or on Insta at Jenny Israel CPC. You can follow my IGTV channel there and get more of these weekly videos. Sending all of you healing blessings. Lots and lots of light and love for this very, very introspective time. All things that are happening now are in divine order. Even the challenges that we're facing are meant for your better self. So embrace these things as gifts. Look for the positive outlook. Look for the silver lining. If you read my Insta, you'll see one of the posts I just put out a day or so ago was about pivoting. And so, yes, pivot, just tilt your head, look at things from a little bit of a different perspective than you're used to. And this may actually help bring new light to old problems or things that are arising. But for all things, reach out for help. That's really being encouraged right now. Reach out for help. So love to all of you. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, this is Jenny Israel with Soul Speak.